She said I was her only one, held me like I was her forever. But then, I found out I was just the backup while she loved someone else. I remember the first time I saw her. It was a rainy Thursday. I was soaked from head to toe, standing under the broken bus stop roof, when she appeared beside me like a scene from some indie romance movie. She smiled, not the kind of smile you give to strangers. It was soft, lingering, like she already knew me. Her name was Ria, and in that first moment, I didn't know I'd just met the girl who would destroy me piece by piece. We started slow, coffee, long walks, conversations that turned into midnight calls, calls that turned into whispered promises. She told me she hated small talk, that she only talked to people who felt like home. She said I made her feel safe, real, seen, and I believed every word. I was a nobody, really, a back-end developer for a mid-sized firm, working long hours, going home to silence. But with her, I felt like I was enough, like I mattered. She laughed at my dumbest jokes. She cried to me about her past. She once said, "You're the calm I never thought I'd find. You're the person I want to grow old with." How could I not fall? I let her in. Fully. She became a part of my everyday, my good mornings, my tired evenings, my late night cravings, my future plans. She moved in within months. I made space for her, in my apartment, in my routine, in my heart. I used to look at her sleeping beside me and wonder how I got so lucky. But sometimes, just sometimes, when she thought I wasn't looking, her smile would vanish. Like there was something behind her eyes, a shadow I couldn't touch. I asked her once, "Is everything okay?" She kissed me and said, "I'm just scared how perfect this feels." And again, I believed her. That's what love does, doesn't it? It blinds you. It makes you think the storm is just rain, that the silence is peace, that the cracks are beautiful. And I was blind. So blind, I didn't see what was right in front of me. Because while I was planning forever with her, she was busy writing a future I was never meant to be a part of. But that truth didn't crash into me all at once. It whispered, in tiny, haunting pieces. A late message she hid. A phone call she took in the balcony with her voice barely above a whisper. A weekend girls' trip where her location was turned off. I made excuses for her. Because that's what love taught me, to doubt myself before I doubted her. But it all unraveled the day I came home early from work. I wasn't supposed to be there. I had told her I'd be out late. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. And then I saw her phone buzzing on the table. One name. Over and over again. Avi. My heartbeat stilled. Not because she was cheating, but because I knew that name. Avi wasn't just a guy. He was her ex. The one she said was toxic. The one who broke her spirit. The one she said she'd never go back to. I should have walked away then. But I picked up the phone instead. And what I heard, her phone felt like it burned in my hand. I didn't mean to answer it. I just did. My thumb moved before my brain could stop it. And then, silence. But not for long. Her voice came through the speaker, soft, sweet. A tone I thought was only mine. "Hey baby, I miss you too. I told you, I'll come see you next weekend." He still thinks I'm going to Manali with the girls. A pause. Laughter. Then him. "You sure he doesn't suspect anything, Ria?" Her answer. "He's too in love to even blink twice." Poor guy still thinks he's the center of my universe. Something inside me cracked. No, shattered. My knees gave out, and I slumped onto the couch, phone still pressed to my ear, breath frozen in my lungs. She kept talking. About me like I was a joke. About our relationship like it was some game she was playing to pass time. "I'll keep him around a little longer. He's stable, sweet pays the bills. And if anything goes wrong with you again, at least I have a backup." Backup. That word echoed in my head louder than any scream ever could. I ended the call. I couldn't listen anymore. And just like that, the life I thought I had, the love I thought I was living, crumbled in one heartbeat. She wasn't just cheating. She had built an entire lie around me, dressed it up as loyalty, painted it with tears and promises. I had given her my everything. She had given someone else my soul in return. But I didn't cry. Not that night. Not when she walked in an hour later, kissed me on the cheek, and asked how my day was. I played along. I looked her in the eyes and lied right back. It was good. Just missed you. She smiled and held me like she always did, like I was hers. But now I knew the truth. And knowing that truth, it didn't make me weak. It made me dangerous. Because now I wasn't the fool who loved her blindly. I was the man she never should have underestimated. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? She lay inches away from me. The same woman who whispered forever into my skin, now a stranger soaked in betrayal. But she didn't know. She had no idea I had picked up her call. Heard everything. The "I miss yous," the "he still thinks I'm clueless," and worst of all, the "backup" she called me. I wanted to scream. Punch a wall. Confront her. Demand answers. But I didn't. Because I realized something. Something colder than rage. She wasn't worth a reaction. Not anymore. So I smiled at her the next morning. Made her coffee. Kissed her forehead. And watched her walk around my home like she still owned a place in my heart. She didn't. She just hadn't been evicted yet. I started small. She always left her phone charging in the living room while she showered. I went through it, calm, steady hands, taking photos of everything. Messages, call logs, hidden albums. She had an entire folder called Work Trips, filled with pictures of her and him. His hands on her waist. Her lips on his neck. In my hoodies. In my bed when I was away for work. Every click of the camera felt like a nail in the coffin of the man I used to be. Then I moved onto her laptop. Her email. Her cloud backups. Every lie she told, I collected like broken glass. I wasn't planning to throw it at her. No. I was going to make her walk through it barefoot. She thought I was still in love. Still stupid. Still safe. But I was already gone. The version of me that believed her, that trusted her with everything. He died the moment I heard her say, he's just a backup. What remained was someone patient, precise, and painfully silent. I started changing things. I removed her name from my accounts. Locked away the joint savings. Canceled the auto debits she set up on my card. She noticed. Asked questions. I said it was routine maintenance. She bought it, because people like her never think they can be outsmarted. She once told me I was the kind of guy women dream of marrying. She forgot to mention she was still dreaming about someone else. And now? Now I was wide awake. I didn't want to ruin her in a fit of anger. I wanted to ruin her in a moment of calm. When everything seemed fine. When she felt the safest. When she finally believed she'd gotten away with it all. That's when I'd strike. Not with fists. With facts. Because she thought she was playing me. She had no idea she'd already lost. Each morning, she kissed me like nothing had changed. And each night, she curled into me like I was still her home. But I wasn't her home anymore. I was the storm she hadn't seen coming. She made breakfast on Sundays, laughed at my jokes, even started leaving cute little notes in my work bag again. Maybe guilt, maybe panic, maybe just her usual performance. And I played along. Because she didn't deserve a confrontation. She deserved a collapse. A slow, calculated collapse. I started building a file, a digital graveyard. Labeled Ria Truth. Every message. Every photo. Every location tag. Her lies. Time-stamped and documented. I didn't just want to break her heart. I wanted to break the illusion she wrapped herself in. I dug deeper into Avi too. The man she told me was a mistake from her past. Turns out he wasn't just a mistake. He was a mirror of me. Same taste in music. Same writing style. Same damn cologne. She hadn't just lied. She'd replace me before I was even broken. But here's where it got interesting. Avi didn't know about me either. Oh, he knew I existed. But he thought I was just a friend crashing at her place after a breakup. The text made it clear. Don't worry, he's just going through a rough patch. I'll help him get back on his feet, and then he'll leave. Leave? I paid the rent. I paid for her classes. I funded our entire life. And still, I was the one supposed to leave? That was the final crack. The moment something inside me snapped, not into anger, but into clarity. She didn't just cheat on me. She erased me. Reduced me to a charity case in someone else's story. So I made a new plan. One where I didn't just expose her. I made sure she lost everything she built on the foundation of my love. I reached out to her college, anonymously, with records of her submitting someone else's project for her thesis. I sent screenshots to her employer, messages where she bragged about taking medical leave to go on vacations with Avi. I waited until her world started shaking beneath her feet. But not enough to fall. Not yet. I needed her to stand right at the edge. And beg me to save her. Because she thought I was the backup. But soon, she'd learn I was the beginning of her end. It started slowly. A missed call from her college counselor. A routine audit email from her job. A small crack in the perfect mirror she'd built around her double life. She brushed it off. Told me over dinner. Ugh, so annoying. My professor is just being difficult. I nodded. I smiled. I said, maybe it's karma. She laughed. She didn't realize that karma was sitting across from her, sharpening the knife. 2 days later, she came home shaken. Her job had called her in unexpectedly. They asked questions she couldn't answer, questions only the real, sick leave would have prepared her for. She started pacing the room, biting her nails. I watched in silence as her world started to tremble. And still, she had no clue. She had no idea that every conversation she was having now, I had planned a week ago. Then came the university's notice. A formal email with a subject line she couldn't ignore. Academic misconduct investigation, immediate action required. That night, I found her crying on the balcony. I stood behind her, arms crossed, calm as ever. She turned to me with red eyes and whispered, I feel like everything's falling apart. I leaned in, wiped her tears gently, and said, I'm here. You'll be okay. Because she needed to believe I was still her safe place. Just a little longer. Just until she lost everything. And that's when I messaged Avi. From a fake account. With proof. Every photo. Every chat. Every timestamp. Caption. She said you were her only one. Ask her who took this photo yesterday. The one I sent was her kissing me on our anniversary night while texting him I'm sick, can't talk. It took him 5 minutes to reply. Then one by one, he blocked her. Socials. Phone. Email. Gone. I watched her unravel in real time. She tried to call him 13 times in a row. Texted him like her life depended on it. She screamed into her pillow. Threw her phone against the wall. I walked in slowly and asked, everything okay? She looked up, broken and confused. He's just gone. I don't understand. And I said nothing. Because this was the moment. This was the beginning of her drowning. Not in fire. Not in rage. But in silence. The same silence she left me in. The day she chose him. Now, she was alone. Falling. And I hadn't even finished what I started. After Avi vanished, she became a shadow of herself. No more morning smiles. No more fake laughter. She barely spoke. Barely ate. She just stared at her phone, like she could will him to come back. I watched in silence, like a surgeon watching the anesthesia kick in. Then the letters started arriving. Her job. Terminated. Her university. Disqualified from the program. Her future? Gone. She thought the worst was behind her. She didn't know I hadn't even touched her yet. One night, I came home and found her on the kitchen floor. Tears. Mess. A half-finished apology note in her hand. She looked up at me, shaking, and whispered, I messed up. I messed up so bad. Please don't leave me too. And for a moment, I almost pitied her. Almost. But then I remembered how she laughed with him behind my back. How she kissed me goodnight and texted him, I love you seconds later. How she made me feel small. Like a temporary shelter until something better showed up. I crouched beside her, brushed her hair back gently, and said, You didn't just mess up, Ria. You set fire to the only person who ever loved you without conditions. She cried harder, reached for my hand. And that's when I placed the envelope in front of her. Her name written on it in the same handwriting I used to write her love letters. She looked up, confused, tore it open. Inside, a printed thread of every lie, every message, every picture. My digital graveyard. Neatly compiled, numbered, labeled. At the end, a note in my handwriting. You said I was just the backup. Now watch how I become the ending. She looked at me like I was a stranger. But I wasn't. I was what she made me. Cold, precise, and forgiving. You were my forever, I whispered, standing. But you chose temporary thrills over permanent love. She begged. Said she could change. Said she didn't know what she was thinking. And I just laughed, not because it was funny, but because I had warned her once. I told her months ago, if you ever lie to me, I won't scream. I'll disappear so quietly. It'll haunt you louder than any fight ever could. And now? She was finally hearing that silence. That night was the last time she saw me. I packed my things while she cried on the floor. Not in anger. Not in chaos. In silence. Because silence was the sharpest weapon I had now. When I closed the door behind me, I didn't slam it. I didn't leave a note. I didn't look back. I let her feel the emptiness she once left me in. And then, I got to work. She thought losing me was the end. It was just part one. I started sharing the truth. Anonymously. Precisely. Only with those who needed to know. Her mentors, who had recommended her for grad school, got an anonymous email with her entire plagiarized thesis history. Her parents, who thought I was too emotionally sensitive, received screenshots of her talking about how she was just using them for support until she moved in with Avi. Her Instagram followers? I never exposed her directly, but I made sure her story got told. As a thread. A simple post. When they tell you they love you but call you a burden behind your back, remember, you're not the problem. They are. It went viral. People began to connect dots. Some guessed. Some knew. And soon, she wasn't the sweet girl with the pretty smile anymore. She was a walking whisper. A scandal they couldn't ignore. I disappeared from her life completely. No messages. No reactions. No signs of where I was. And that broke her more than anything else. Because now, she had to carry two ghosts. The man she betrayed. The man who let her destroy herself with her own hands. I heard she tried messaging Avi again. He never replied. I heard she applied for work in another city. Her references? Gone. Her resume? Discredited. She thought I'd ruin her loudly. But no. I ruined her quietly. With whispers that echoed louder than screams. I didn't destroy her. I let the truth do that. And the truth always hits hardest when no one's there to lie about it. Months passed. She faded. From social circles. From reputation. From the mirror she used to admire herself in every morning. I kept my distance. No messages. No, I told you so. Just absence. And the emptiness that followed it. But I watched from the shadows. I saw how she wore heavier makeup to cover the exhaustion. How her posts turned from sunshine quotes to cryptic lines about guilt and regret. How the sparkle she used to fake eventually faded into something real. Real pain. Because for the first time in her life, She wasn't the one holding the knife. She was the one bleeding. One evening, I passed by our old cafe. She was there, alone. Same seat. Same coffee. She kept looking at the door. Waiting. Hoping. I didn't go in. Because she wasn't waiting for a person. She was waiting for a version of me that didn't exist anymore. The version who brought her flowers. Who defended her when people whispered. Who looked at her like she was the only light left in his world. But she extinguished that light. With her betrayal. With her games. I wasn't angry anymore. I didn't want revenge. Because I'd already taken it. Not by breaking her life. But by letting her realize she broke her own. And there's no punishment greater than watching yourself fall. Knowing the one person who would have caught you is the same one who's watching you hit the ground in silence. She once told me, I've been broken before, but I always survive. What she didn't realize was, surviving and healing aren't the same thing. You can live through the fire, but you'll always carry the burns. Now, she walks through life with scars no one can see, haunted by a love she treated like a backup plan. And me? I don't need revenge anymore. Because she wakes up every day in a world where I exist. But not for her. She created her own hell. I just made sure she never finds the exit. So if you ever see her smiling again, look closer. Because behind that smile is a scream. And every breath she takes now is laced with the one truth she'll never escape. He was mine. I broke him. And now I'll never find him in anyone else.